Hello, you're watching the AI Native Telco Summit, part of our year-round DSP Leaders coverage. I'm Guy Daniels, and today's discussion looks at how to enable the AI Native Telco. This will require substantial effort from telcos and their partners. So what is the value proposition? What are the best practices? And how can telcos leverage AI innovation to help their own operations and ultimately their customers? Well, let's find out. And I am delighted to say that joining me on the program today are Rhonda Holloway, who is Director Network Automation Solution Marketing at Fujitsu. Beatriz Ortega, EMEA Telco Business Development Manager at Red Hat. Anshul Bhatt, who is Head of Symworld Solutions at Rakuten Symphony. Issam Toufik, who is Chief Technology Officer for ETSI. And Aaron Bosman Patel, who is Vice President AI Labs and Innovation with TM Forum. Hello everyone, it's good to see you all. Now, obviously, there's a great deal of interest in this topic, and we've already had a lot of viewer engagement. So let me start by asking this question. What is the value proposition of AI for telcos, and what improvements does it actually offer them? Rhonda, let me start by putting this question to you first.
Well, from our perspective, there are three vectors that provide the underpinning for AI. And in no particular order, they are services, security, and sustainability. So artificial intelligence will support 5G services that go beyond ultra-remote work and education, streaming entertainment, and virtual recreation and sports. And AI will enable the next modern society where everything in a system full of extreme dependencies will be smart. Vehicles and transportation, homes and communities, assembly lines and factories, classrooms, campuses, cities and their infrastructure, timely disaster response, you name it. All of these smart things will exponentially increase the attack surface that criminals will attempt to exploit in every way imaginable. That's going to require new types of awareness, vigilance, and counter technologies that are always learning, remember everything, and apply that knowledge predictively within an ever-tightening margin of accuracy. And the guys in the data center are sounding the alarm saying, whoa, do you know how much power we're going to be using? So these new technologies must be inherently sustainable, far more sustainable than the average central office or sprawling data center metroplex is today.
All right, thanks there, Rhonda. There's obviously there's going to be a lot of use cases. There's going to be a lot of activity around this, and there's a role for telcos. I'm going to get some more views from our other guests on this one, but Issam, let's come across to you first, because how does this impact what you're doing over at ETSI, and what kind of support do telcos need to create this new value proposition?
Well, thank you, Guy. First of all, let me just add on to what Rhonda just mentioned on the value proposition of AI. I believe that AI will play a very important role in almost every aspect of the telcos. So the first one that comes to mind is the network optimization. And when we talk about network optimization, that goes from deployments to the running and operation of the network, and also the maintenance. So we can think of the use of AI in cases like the network traffic management and resource allocation, where artificial intelligence algorithms can be used actually to allocate the network resources in real time based on the demand. So in this way, we make sure that the critical applications are having the necessary bandwidth, while at the same time making sure that the resources are used in the most efficient way. And when we are talking about resources, we are talking about the radio access network, of course, but the core network as well. And we are talking about physical resources, but also virtual resources. A lot of telcos are now moving towards virtualized technologies like NFV or SDN. So AI can help here as well to allocate the resources for those applications.
Great. Thanks very much, Issam. There was an awful lot of potential there, certainly. Anshul, I'm going to come to you in a moment, but first of all, I just want to go across to Aaron because I'm gathering, I guess, a lot of what Issam and Rhonda have said resonate with you. I mean, like areas like network optimization springs to mind there, but there does seem to be a big value proposition for telcos here.
Absolutely. And I think this is what we need to really understand. There's 700 billion worth of growth for CSPs. So really, truly willing to undertake business transformation, really bringing AI into their network operations. And we've heard from Issam and Rhonda, they're really talking about the benefits, things around energy efficiency. This becomes absolutely critical. And at TM Forum, we just launched our AN Network Manifesto with 31 large CSP and vendors signing up to it. And when we think about AI and automation, one of the key reasons has to be energy optimization and efficiency. And we just had our DTW event, and we talk about all these new services that we want to launch, and we talk about we talk about low latency applications, high density. And the operators are facing bills around 1 billion euros a year in terms of energy cost. So if you think about what things like AI and network automation can do, they can reduce your energy consumption by 25%. That's a 250 million euro saving. So if we just think about the efficiencies alone, massive in terms of how operators can launch these new services, but most importantly, at the cost point that the market requires. And this is where AI, and particularly now we're talking about generative AI, is going to become very, very important. Imagine telling your network what you want it to do, but not how to do it. This is all the point of AI in our networks. It's about having zero touch, zero wait, zero trouble. And this is building the future of our networks. If we're going to have these new types of connected cities, connected cars, connected lives, we can't afford for our networks to fail anymore. And if you look at operators who have now really started to implement AI into their networks, we're seeing massive amounts of benefits. So if you look at what Airtel did, using the stuff we've done at TM Forum, they put closed loop automation into their networks. They managed to be able to solve level 4 tickets, 90% of those within 2 hours. So from a perspective of network automation, being able to do that zero touch, zero wait, zero trouble, it's absolutely critical for releasing that 700 billion of new services. And then think about the new types of customer experiences that we can start to deliver. It takes on average about 6 months to train somebody working in a call center. Think about what Gen AI could do, having all that information at your fingertips, saying actually what we expect the customer to do, what experiences they've already had, and also things around next best offers. So 700 billion of new growth awaits those operators willing to do that, but also think about the massive cost savings that we can also have. So AI is critical to build networks of the future and enabling operators to be much more flexible and deliver those new services, really importantly, at the cost point that market requires.
Yeah, thanks very much, Aaron. This is so compelling. Anshul, let me come across to you. What's your view on the value proposition of AI for telcos? What would you like to add?
Yeah, I think most of the points were, already discussed, and very good points. I agree with Aaron that, even Gen AI coming in is bringing a lot of opportunities. If we compare to, telecom within another industry, let's say automobile. So there is this level 1 to level 5 classification. Level 1 being you are driving a car manually, to level 5 where the car is completely self-driven, right? So I think with this advent of AI, even telcos are now starting to think in terms of level 1 to level 5. And I think right now, most of the telcos are at level 2, level 3 autonomy at best. But I think with AI, the telcos truly have a potential to reach towards level 4 and level 5 autonomy. And this will not only impact, obviously, in terms of customers, in terms of their own network engineers, and also in terms of developing the partner ecosystem to have more AI models working in telco. I think this revolution is going to affect in all these 3 dimensions. And I think even from the people's perspective with Gen AI, the telco NOC engineers, let's say today, who are really good at the domain knowledge, but who can't really code or program. With Gen AI, the possibilities are endless. Like with the code interpreter Gen AI models that we are seeing recently, I think it will be super easy for a telco NOC engineer to even write a piece of code by giving just the intent, and then the automation template or an AI model would actually work behind the scenes to get that code implemented. So I think I see many of the NOC engineers becoming extremely prolific in terms of implementing AI and automation in their day-to-day jobs. And I think Gen AI is going to enable and sort of move us towards this reskilling of our NOC engineers more towards the automation engineers or even AI engineers in future. So I do see many great possibilities and use cases with AI coming in telco towards level 5 autonomy.
Thank you very much, Anshul. So it's just a really strong case being made here for AI throughout telcos, networks and operations. But how do they go about it? What is the best AI implementation strategy for telcos? How can they take pilot projects and scale and operationalize AI in the network all the way from core to the edge? Beatriz, let me bring you into the conversation here. What's your thoughts about the best AI implementation strategy?
Well, the best AI, nobody can say what is the best AI, but it's true that implementing artificial intelligence in the telecommunication industry requires a strategic approach that addresses several aspects: network architecture, technology integration, and organizational readiness. So it's true that we are managing here three main content: culture, business, and platform solutions. So when we are talking about culture, we need to have the leadership buy-in, okay? So ensure that the executive leadership understand the strategic importance of the artificial intelligence and support its integration across the organization. So skill development, okay? Invest in training programs to upskill existing employees and hire new artificial intelligence experts that can just make the bridge for the talent gap, okay? And culture shift, foster a culture of innovation and data-driven decision-making with the organization. That is essential. So without the culture, nothing will change, okay? Later, we can define just a clear business objective for the artificial intelligence. So we need to identify use cases that determine a specific artificial intelligence in order to align the business goal with the customer experience engagement, or with the network optimization that we were talking before, or with predictive maintenance, okay? And important in this case is the metrics, okay? Define key performance indicator in order to measure the success of the artificial intelligence implementation, assuring that the align with the business objectives is clear and is constant. And if we talk about solution, data management and infrastructure, for instance, okay, we need just to talk about the quality of the data. So ensure it's accurately, complete, and properly labeled for training artificial intelligence models. Implement data governance practice. The ETL is the data is the petrol of these models, of these artificial models. So we need just to make sure that the data is accurate, consistent, and up to date. So we need for that just data cleansing, just segregators, anonymizers when it's necessary, and of course one artificial intelligence machine learning engine.
Thanks very much, Beatriz. Rhonda, what are your thoughts on AI implementation strategies?
So what we're hearing from our customers is that they're really chunking it into progressions. And so where they're starting is the progression and adoption is basics like saving money, and the efforts are around saving money. Then after they've got that, what can be done right now, the next thing they advance to is optimization and what can be done around network optimization. And then the final progression in adoption is getting ready for innovation when the market matures. So when it comes to saving money, telecommunications are pursuing artificial intelligence solutions that examine real-time network traffic, and then recommend the optimal number of resources that a coverage area requires to maintain quality of service and quality of experience. Everything else can be turned off until it's needed again. I mean, very simple, can do that right now. From an automation and optimization perspective, operators know they won't have enough people to do all the things every time in the right order for 5G operations. So, for example, they need unified network control across the multi-RAN that surfaces network data from departmental silos. That data will provide the foundation for AI that ripples into service delivery optimization and informs new markets and service types. They need advanced tools to help isolate the root cause of alarm storms. Again, real basics. They don't have the manpower to run down every single alarm, only the alarms that are impacting revenue. Neural network models and machine learning can identify real problems and their source, along with a catalog of recommendations and automated fixes. They need automated deployment and testing. Imagine all the checking, validating, testing, and potential rollbacks that a cloud-native network will need. Only automated deployment systems powered by AI can deliver that with the speed and accuracy that AI techniques can deliver. So then when it comes to innovation, so this is our third big chunk, new applications that leverage zero trust are being developed that will provide innovative 5G services. This one may feel like the furthest away because it requires either a fully integrated vertical stack and or a fully developed open ecosystem that follows standards. But we're hearing that providers are actively developing partnerships to create new applications that will ultimately benefit from AI. And even though this may feel like the furthest out, the metabolism of change in this space is so fast that they are planning for these applications in the next 9 to 12 months.
You're right there, Rhonda. It's absolutely a rapid speed of innovation we're seeing in this industry. I'm going to get a few more comments in on this question. Aaron, let's come across to you first.
Yeah, thank you. And it's got to be about prioritization. I completely agree with everybody else said, but AI is complex. And I think your question is, where do you start? And it's got to be about starting small and then being able to scale it. And, we've heard before about security is absolutely critical. Also, the data availability becomes even more important. It's the old adage, junk in, you get junk out. So one thing that we've looked at developing is what we call this value operations framework. And this has got to be a set of metrics so we can really understand how, advanced are we in terms of automation in general inside your business. How can you leverage that to then start to use AI? Because a lot of people don't understand what AI is, and they use, people say, oh, we're doing AI. Well, really, it's automation. And this is what we have to understand. What parts need automation? Which parts need AI? How do we prioritize that? And then how do we put some key value metrics against that? Because this is all about ROI, whether we're talking about energy efficiency, whether we're talking about cost saving, whether we're talking about that zero touch, zero wait, zero trouble networks. It doesn't matter what your end goal is. What we have to think about is, how do we prioritize that, get that ROI, begin with that experimentation, and then critically, which is so important for telco, it's about scale. It's then about taking that innovation, taking it maybe from your test beds, and then being able to deploy it, at scale. And I think that's the one thing that telcos at the moment aren't doing very well. They're not prioritizing what those deployments need to be and need to look like. And every telco is different. Every network's different. There's different layers of complexity. There's different levels of digital transformation happening in that telco. And that's why they need something like a value operations framework to be able to understand where they are today, where they need to be tomorrow, and which is the quickest way to accelerate that change they need to bring. And I would really bring people back to those simple metrics of what is it you want to do? Is it network monetization? Is it increasing efficiency? Is it better digital experience, customer experience, whatever that might be? But you have to work that out through a very simple, systematic way, because otherwise we're not going to deploy AI and we're not going to have the scale that we need to bring about that big transformation and that 700 billion worth of new revenue.
Yeah, absolutely, Aaron. Yeah, and as you say, taking it to scale is the difficult part for many telcos here. Anshul, let's come across to you for your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Guy. I think, at Rakuten Symphony, we tackle this problem in two aspects. One is the people and processes, and one is the technology angle. So I think in my experience, changing the mindset, the culture aspect it's more important and more difficult when it comes to the AI transformation journey. So what we did is like, at first we just like, what we thought would work is that, let's go and ask our NOC engineers and operations team to sort of give us the use cases and implement AI and automation on it. But it wouldn't work that way. So what is important is to make sure that you have AI incorporated into the processes itself. That, for example, incident management, change management, release management, all these TM4 and processes that we have implemented, we made sure that we have an avenue of creating a backlog for the use cases through these processes, so that it becomes a day-to-day part of our operations teams to make sure that these AI use cases or potential AI use cases are cataloged properly. So the first step and the most difficult step was to create the right backlog and then apply the right prioritization on top of it in terms of business value, time to implementation, complexity to implement. So I think from the people and processes perspective, this was our approach. And when it comes to technology, unless you have all your data organized and sorted out in one common single pane of view, it would be very difficult to implement AI. So on this aspect, we actually made sure that we have a common data platform, we have a common metadata dictionary, so that if we hire a lot of data scientists, it should be easy for them to focus on implementing AI and have like maybe a week or 2 weeks of time to implement an ML model instead of waiting for months, which is typically the case if your data strategy is not sorted out. So I think having one data platform, one common view of the entire network in terms of data is a first important step in terms of technology before we jump into the AI implementations.
Yeah, thanks, Anshul. Absolutely right there. We hear so often that the quality of data is so critical for AI, and also having the access and speedy access to that data as well. Now, we've talked about partnerships, and Beatriz, you mentioned partnerships earlier in our conversation, but I'd like to come back to this one now. And like so many aspects of our business, partnerships are so important. But what are the specific benefits of partnerships within AI in terms of vendors and domain experts and developers? What's the benefit in order to drive value and growth? And how can DSPs, digital service providers, how can they best leverage these partnerships to scale their AI activities? Aaron, I'm going to come across to you for this one, because you were just talking about the the need to scale activities in your previous answer.
Absolutely, and partnerships are really critical for driving the deployment of AI. We always go through this, in telco for a long time. How much do we do in-house? How much do we outsource? And the key here is going to be partnerships, because we can't do this alone, particularly if we want to go out into the enterprise and sell beyond traditional connectivity. There are many challenges, though, that do remain with these types of partnerships. Who owns the model? How do we take generic models and train them specifically on our data? Who then is responsible, for refining that model even more? And then again, things in and around updates to that model. So partnerships are going to be absolutely critical, really understanding what partnerships mean. It's very different in AI. The partnerships are very different than the models we've had, today. And that's because AI is very complex. And a lot there, again, is around the training of the model, the sharing of the data, how we update those models, how they're implemented, how they are continually developed, how we then extend those models, and then how do you use models in a B2B2X ecosystem. So getting those partnerships right are absolutely critical from the start. And if we think about, network monetization, Web 3.0, that's where we're starting to see some of these complex models starting to take place. And I think we've heard from Rhonda and other people, today talking about the security in and around that. So those models are absolutely critical for getting right and thinking about what do we want from this partnership? What are things like the revenue split? Who owns the model? Who trains the model? Becomes absolutely fundamental to these new types of relationships. And we're moving away very much now from these very kind of linear relationships where it's kind of on a buy-sell side. We're going to go to really complex, multi-dimensional relationships where it is going to be more B2B2X, multiple partners involved in this. And I think we actually need to take a step back And really interestingly, I don't think we have all the answers to how these models are going to work. And I think it's something as an industry that we need to come together and to work through and say, well, actually, what does the telco of the future look like? If we're truly going to add automation and AI into every single aspect of every interaction, from the customer experience down to operations, all the way into the network, is there different relationships and partnerships for different parts of that ecosystem? And if so, how do we look at that? How do we scale it? And then how do we extend that to different partners? And I really don't think we've had enough honest and open conversations to answer this question in depth.
No, I think you're right there, Aaron. I think we haven't, and it's something we have to explore further. Anshul, what's your thoughts about how telcos and the whole industry uses partnerships to implement and benefit from AI?
Yeah, I think in terms of AI, I think with the entire telecom network architecture moving towards the more open ecosystem, more microservice, cloud-based ecosystem, I think it's going to be, I think, a very good complementary addition to this whole revolution. So, I mean, if you look at the past, I think telcos were not considered to be the first choice when it came to, like Silicon Valley startups and innovation, because the process was just so bureaucratic. But I think with the modern architecture and the standards evolving towards, let's say, RIC or even NWDAF and many other applications, I think there is a good chance that now telcos, will have a lot of partners and which would help foster the innovation. It's like, what happened with, if I draw a parallel to movie industry, before only like a rich producer could afford to launch a movie in a cinema. But now with Netflix and YouTube and all these platforms, any creator who is creative enough will have an audience. So it's going to be similar parallel in terms of telecom industry, that any startup or any partner who has a good algorithm or a use case on AI would be easily able to go to a telco and then prove their innovation, because now the platforms and the architecture allows these third-party app developers to actually run their app on an existing platform with all the securities and standard evolving around these problem statements. I think telcos will see a much richer partner ecosystem, and I think the scale and the quantity in which we'll be able to innovate in terms of use cases, it's going to increase exponentially with all these developments for sure.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And let's hope so. Well, I think we should move the conversation on, unless anybody else wants to comment on the partnership angle, because Anshul mentioned there the evolution of standards, which brings us on to our next question very nicely. And that's the role of standards, and what role do standards play? And is the current SDO model appropriate in this sort of AI native telco landscape we're looking at now? Issam, I feel that I really ought to come to you first with this one, and your views as to what role standards will play.
Well, first, let me start with the first part of the question, which is the role of standards. Standards have played so far a very, very important role in the success of telecommunications in the last decades, and it will continue because for many reasons. So the first reason why standards are important is interoperability, which ensures that components from different vendors can work together. In the case of AI for telcos, AI will not be a separate thing operating by itself in isolation. It will be interacting and integrated with the network, with other technologies and other systems. So interoperability is very critical. Standards will facilitate the integration of AI into the existing infrastructure, making it easier to deploy and manage AI applications. The second reason why standards are important is securing AI. Security in general, but for this particular case is securing AI. AI systems will be subject to security threats, and standards help define security protocols and best practices, making the overall system more robust and more resilient. By the way, and I have mentioned earlier, we do have a technical group in ETSI working in exactly that. It is called ETSI, which stands for Securing AI. So securing the telecommunication in general, where AI will help enhancing the security, but we have also to secure AI, and standards will be instrumental here. The third point why standards are important is the compliance with the regulation. We saw that in many regions, acts and regulations are being issued to regulate AI, and standards will help the telcos comply with these regional regulations. The other point that comes to mind in the role of standards is the ethics and privacy. AI raises ethical and privacy concerns, especially when handling customer data. So standards can again help establish guidelines for responsible AI use. Standards will ensure that the telcos comply with the data protection regulations and ethical principles when developing and deploying AI applications. Now, coming back to the second question on the model of the SDOs and if it is appropriate, let me first stress that the current SDO model here is a model where collaboration is fostered and encouraged. It is an environment where competitors come together to collaborate and build a common technology based on consensus. So collaboration and consensus are two important aspects that are essential for the large adoption of any technology, and they will again be extremely important for the adoption and development of AI. We need also to keep in mind that when we are talking about the telcos, as I mentioned earlier, AI is not and will not be working in isolation. It is a technology that will be running and interacting with the network, with other technologies and other systems. So we have to make sure that whatever environment the standardization is taking place, it is an environment where we are also taking into consideration ways of working and making sure that the standard responds to all the needs that are being addressed. Having said that, we need also to look at some of the aspects that can be specific to AI. And the first one may be obvious, but we need to make sure that we have the right experts when developing standards for AI. And the second one, and this is a move that we are already experiencing, which consists of relying more on practical standardization in terms of developing software. In ETSI, we have launched SDGs, which stands for Software Development Groups, that operates alongside the standards committees, which is a framework designated to facilitate experimentation and proof of concept and the integration and testing, so that we deliver an early and regular feedback to the standardization process. So I think we need to be agile, have this feedback loop, so that we make sure that the standards are fit for purpose and are responding to the needs of the new ways of employing such technologies as AI.
Issam, thank you very much for that. And let me come across next to Beatriz, because as Issam mentioned, there's the need to be agile as well. This is a very fast-moving industry. What are your thoughts about the role of standards?
Yes, really, the current SDO model is appropriated for establishing fundamentals, principles, and guidelines, but it might benefit from more agile and collaborative approaches. I think we need to have more agile standardization. That is, standards should adopt just agile methodologies in the standardization process, because it looks like the standards are always just running behind the technology. So, and just trying the standards should work just closer to the open source collaboration, collaborate with open source community to develop reference implementation and best practice. So enabling rapid innovation and standardization in parallel. So that is now one new technology is in the open source. I think it's weak. So we don't have to wait for 1 year or for 7 months in order to standardize the new methodology or the new solution or the new technology. Okay, we need just to work in more agile methods. And the other point is we need just to foster collaboration between public and private sectors, leveraging the expertise of both to create standards that are technically robust and practically applicable. Okay, just from the both point of view, private and public. So there are the 3 points that I'm considering should be just a future consideration for the standards, for the standardization levels.
Beatriz, thank you very much indeed for that. And it's an important balance for telcos to get right as well. Aaron, let me come across to you next.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, and as we heard from Issam, it's about collaboration and consensus. And, at TM Forum, we've come up with the TM Forum 6 levels for autonomous networks. And it's absolutely critical. We heard people talk about them before. And the key to this is everybody has the same language. They can understand it. We had companies such as, Telefonica, MTN, Verizon, China Mobile, AIS in Thailand. It doesn't matter where you are in the globe. If you all have the same understanding of AI, your implementation, and what the value is and how it will be implemented, and also what support you need, that means the industry is going to move forward at a much faster rate. So if everybody says, well, we're level 2 now, and we're going to get to level 4 by 2025, which we hear a lot of operators saying, what is level 4? What do the vendors need to do? How can we have consensus in and around that? Without standards, you don't get consensus. Without consensus, the industry is not going to move forward at the pace that it needs to. So I think, we're doing a great job, at really driving the industry forward, at getting that common language, that common understanding of what AI is going to mean at those different levels. And that's absolutely fundamental to growth. And I think as an industry, we've set up a lot of, multi-standards body organizations so we can all talk to each other as we set those. We're no longer doing things in silos. And I think, for the past 3 years, we've seen a massive shift, even in the way that standards bodies work with other standards bodies. And this is really, really important. Everything has to be open. We've got to have, that consensus, and everything has to be interoperable. And I think we're now moving to an industry which is now truly open and getting finally that common sense of consensus.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aaron. And let me come across to Rhonda as well for your views on standards, Rhonda.
Well, Aaron actually hit the nail on the head with his last comments around open. From our perspective, anytime you're talking about standards, they also need to be open. That's what's going to make everything go faster. That's what's going to make partnerships. That's what's going to make interoperability. That's what's going to make multi-vendor things work together. So open, and also when we talk about open, we mean open, not just exposed. So it's one thing to expose the hooks and say, hey, it's open, but it's another thing to say, hey, here are the exposed hooks, and they also follow the standard. So one thing I would want to really emphasize in partnerships and interoperability is the thought of open.
Yeah, indeed. And it's good that you brought that up as well. We've got to be really clear about open and what we mean by open and what telcos want by open. I think we've got time for one quick final question. And I just wanted to touch on the idea of how telcos can use AI in their service offerings to customers, and specifically whether or not there's value in AI as a service. And if so, if this as a service model works for AI, what types of AI products can a service provider offer this way? Anshul, have you got any thoughts about how telcos could leverage this model?
Yeah, absolutely, Guy. I think, with this all progress around AI, this is one thing that I'm really excited about. Having worked with Rakuten Mobile as part of Rakuten Symphony, we already see a lot of potential use cases where we are using the customer data or even the network data to create and train some models that can be used across the industries. And I think in general too, like telcos have been managing the networks at scale. So for example, I was talking to a telco in Southeast Asia, and they are actually now, trying to use the customer data in order to predict the credit score. And considering telco has a lot of data, they can actually reuse or resell some of these products to the financial institutions out there who would want their models to be trained more accurately based on the user behaviors that telcos can monitor. Similarly, I think even on the health side, we have phones in our pockets, and obviously as part of the drive test and a lot of MDT and other use cases, we do measure a lot of network data. But at the same time, this exact data from different sensors and from different network readings can also translate into some interesting health-related insights. This could be an interesting use case for the health industry. So I think there are a lot of cross-industry use cases, but also at the same time, we talked about standards and we talked about open networks. So as the ecosystem is moving towards that, even telcos can help other telcos to implement some of the AI use cases, especially on the domain of RIC, that is R apps or X apps, or even on the core network and other network domains. Now that the telcos are aligning towards the common platform, towards an open network strategy, I think some of these use cases are even we are seeing that, for example, a telco in North America, they have actually reached out to us to sort of take their particular algorithm around capacity planning using AI onto our Rakuten Symphony marketplace and have it available on our marketplace for other telcos to use. So even telcos are, I definitely foresee them creating new revenue streams and avenues using some of their internal in-house innovation, not only within the telcos, but also across different industries, because there is so much of data, and only now we are in this position that we can make sense out of it. So definitely AI as a service is something that I'm really excited about, and we are looking for more and more use cases whereby we can leverage the data and AI to enable other industries, not beyond telco even. So yeah, that sounds like a good opportunity in the AI space, definitely.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because creating a center of AI excellence is going to be quite an expensive undertaking. So if there's ways to reuse that and sell that on, that's going to be very beneficial. Right, let me come across first of all to Beatriz. We'll go to Rhonda next, but Beatriz, let's come across to you first for your thoughts.
Yeah, only one comment on top of the Rakuten Symphony speech is I think we can see two different angles for the artificial intelligence as a service. One is how the telco can consume that. Okay, so really the chatbots, the virtual assistant, can have instant customer support, handling inquiries, troubleshooting. That is not necessarily just start from scratch. They are already there, so we can consume or just adapt it. Okay, the same for sentiment analysis, or for personalized content and recommendation. There are very good algorithms in the market that we can consume directly. Okay, for optimization or quality of service or fraud detection. So the first artificial intelligence as a service is the direct consume by the telco, okay, by the DSP. But in the second option, as Rakuten was saying quite well, is how we can offer, or how the telco can provide not only to other telcos, to other industries, the data analytics, provide artificial intelligence powered data analytics services, okay, helping the business derive insights for large database, or enabling data-driven decision making. Computer vision, natural language processing, providing NLP services for sentimental analysis, language translation, chatbots, and voice recognition application. Okay, that could be consuming for other industries. Machine learning models, pre-trained machine learning models, or customer model development service tailored. Okay, that can be another one. Okay, and of course the Telefonica is one case. Okay, Telefonica is offering artificial intelligence consulting, that is provide consultancy services to business in order to integrate artificial intelligence into their operation, including artificial intelligence strategy development, technology selection, and implementation guidelines. So artificial intelligence as a service can be considered as from other players to telco, and telco can provide artificial intelligence as a service to their customers.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Beatriz. And Rhonda, the last word on today's panel comes to you. What are your thoughts on AI as a service?
Well, so this is actually the most exciting thing to me as a consumer, because I think about what's about to come that AI will enable, and I can't wait to consume those new service types. And so the thing that comes to me most specifically is these dynamic services will be informed by AI that can be resold, that are specific to verticals. So, right now we have a service, and you might even have a static network slice that's specific to a certain service type, but it's not dynamic. Whereas, maybe not in the too distant future, we'll be able to have network slices, network as a service that are built dynamically based on the specific vertical needs and the specific network type that it is going to serve. And that amount of data is only available through AI. And then to be able to, build and tear down a network based on those requirements specifically for a vertical, in my mind, is probably one of the greatest opportunities for AI as a service.
Rhonda, thank you very much indeed. Well, we must leave it there, but I'm sure we'll continue this debate during our live Q&A show later today. For now, though, thank you all for taking part in our discussion. And if you are watching this on day one of our AI Native Summit, then please send us your questions and we'll answer them in our live Q&A show, which is coming up very soon. And don't forget to view the other panel discussions and keynote interviews in this year's summit. Here is the agenda for today, and the full schedule of programs and speakers can be found on the TelecomTV website, which is where you'll also find the Q&A form and our poll question. Please don't forget to download our exclusive AI Native research report from my colleague Ray Lemaitre. But for now, thanks for watching and goodbye.